Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to my glass studio. Gosh, don't you just love tropical fish? I certainly do because they're colorful, they're fun, they're whimsical, they're just so cool. Cool because they're in the water. Anyway, I want to show you how to make these fish right here, or one or the other, whichever one we decide to make. I'm not sure, but what I love about these is they're made with scrap. The background is a single piece of glass, the bottom layer. But other than that, they're made out of scrap and twisted cane. That cane is so cool. It gives a three-dimensional quality, adds visual texture, adds visual movement to the fish, gives it a nice airy feel, and just really fun to work with. So we're going to use some dichroic as well, and a lot of scrap. So this is a great way to use scrap and create something that's really fun and exciting that you're going to enjoy in your home. Here's a close-up of this adorable little fish so you can get an idea of what we're going to be making. This project starts with a clear base glass. So I'm going to lay a piece of clear glass on top of the pattern, use my handheld cutter, and cut right over the paper and over the glass and try to get this shape as close as possible to that pattern. Some of these indentations are a little bit deep, so I'm kind of averaging them out and cutting as close as I can, and I'll go back in and do a little bit of different type of detail work to get that intricate shape and those deep inside cuts. I like to use my saws as little as possible, so I'll do as much as I can by hand, and then where I have those really intense deep areas, I'll go ahead and use a saw to cut those out. So I don't let the shape intimidate me or prevent me from doing something that's very intricate. I just do as much as I can by hand because it's faster, it's easier, and it minimizes the wear and tear on my saw and the amount of time I have to spend at the saw doing this kind of detail work. Now I'm going to outline the areas where I want to cut in a little further with the Sharpie. I'll go over the Sharpie line with lip balm to prevent it from washing away when I use the wet saw. Now I'm going to take the glass over to the bandsaw and we're going to cut those little areas away. So the trick to using a bandsaw and having great success is just to go slow and steady, let the tool do the work. It's grinding material away, not really cutting. So you just have to take your time. Now with the saw, you go front to back. So you may go in from one direction, like in this V shape here. I'll go in from one direction, then back out. Then I'll go back in from a different direction to cut that little V shape of glass away from the shape of the fish. After cutting the intricate detail with the saw, I'll take the shape to the grinder. Anytime you're cutting curves, you're going to have bumps. That's consistent with cutting shapes that have intricacy like this. So I take it to the grinder to improve the shape to make sure it fits closely to the pattern, remove any bumps, and remove any sharpness. If there's a bump on one of the edges, I stay there a little longer with the grinder to remove it. After grinding, I dry and clean the glass with a towel. Now I'm going to cut the design layer out of 1/4 inch wide strips of glass. I selected just a random palette from my bins. I'm repeating blues and purples and greens and yellows, and I'm using some transparent glasses and some opal glasses together. Working with both types of glass gives you a nice visual look because in some cases when the light goes through the project, you'll get that glistening color through the transparent materials, but then in the evening or when there's not light coming through, you'll still have a nice presence there with those opalescent colors because they'll show really nicely with reflected light. I'm using the pattern as a guide to lay out the number of strips I think I'll need. And then when I work this way, I generally cut more strips than I think I'll need, and I use the best ones. And then here you can see I'm changing up the color combinations and how they're laid out together as I'm going along. It's really fun to work this way. Laying the strips out like this gives me an idea of how many I'll need to complete the project. Some of the areas on the fish, I want them to be a little more organized, a little more specific and fit the pattern really nicely. So I've decided to cut those out of paper, and then a few of these areas I'm going to use opal glass. And since I can't see through it, I'm going to use the paper as a guide to cut those shapes. A fast, easy way to get pattern pieces for the areas where you want to use opal glass is just take a scrap piece of paper, put it on top of the original pattern, and trace over it with a pencil. You can generally see that dark line right through the paper pretty easily. Now I'm going to take my paper pattern, place it on the glass that I want to use, and trace around it with a Sharpie. Another option would be to glue the paper down and then just cut around it. So do whatever works best for you to give you the highest quality pieces and the best cuts that you can achieve. So sometimes, if cutting around the paper works better for you, great, do it. If tracing around it works better, do that. Sometimes I'll trace around the paper if I want to use it multiple times. For instance, if I wanted to make more than one of this fish and I wanted this little area for the head and that tail fin, I want to do that multiple times, then tracing around the paper is the better choice because then I can use it over and over. Now I'm using the Sharpie as a guide, going right on top of it, using my cutter, then my running pliers, and remove that material. These are pretty simple shapes, so they're very easy to achieve quickly. Now I'm going to place those pieces. They look pretty good. All right, so let's go ahead and cut something else. Let's cut the top fin and the bottom fin. So we'll go ahead, because I can see through this glass, I'll just place it on top of the pattern, cut right over it, and decide which is the best way to fit this glass on there so I get have the least amount of waste. So I run my cutter over that line and then do the outside edge, and then we'll get some pieces here out of the way, and I rotate the pattern and the glass to make it easier for me to apply a nice even amount of pressure. A good score is made with good, solid, consistent pressure beginning to end. So sometimes I rotate the pattern, the glass, I move my body around so I get the best option there to apply the right amount of pressure to get the best score line and the best results I can. So don't hesitate to do that yourself. Make it easy, make it convenient, make it comfortable for yourself to make really good, consistent score lines. This area is really narrow, so I'm using the running pliers and grazing pliers in combination to get that out. Look how cool that little fin came out. Look, you were probably surprised I was able to get that much detail just by hand. Yes, you can too. Just practice a little bit and do it one step at a time. Take your time, don't rush anything, enjoy yourself, and you'll have terrific success. Oh, well, you knew I had to throw some dichroic in here, didn't you? Yes, of course. So I've got this little piece I'm going to use for the top fin here, and it's a piece of splatter, so it's got this cool pattern to it, and it's silver looking, which I think is fun because it's shimmery, just like a fish. This piece of dichroic is going to be the perfect accent for this fish. Here I have the head of the fish and a series of 1/4 inch wide strips and twisted cane between each of them. And I'm marking the glass so I can cut it to size. You have to cut the twisted cane with mosaic nippers, and the glass I can cut with my handheld cutter and my running pliers. So I'm marking these so I can take them away from the pattern and then cut them in whatever method works best for the material that I'm using. I love how the twisted cane adds so much pattern, detail, transparency, and a really nice three-dimensional quality to the design. Laying here on the table, it's very subtle how this is going to affect the finished piece, but when you hold this up in the light and look through it, that twisted cane really is a dynamic addition, really exciting material to work with. Definitely need to try this if you haven't already. So fun. Now, rather than numbering the pieces or numbering the pattern below, I'm just going to remove them one at a time, cut them to size, and then put them back. This way I know the right orientation, everything fits nicely, and I don't have to spend a lot of time numbering the pieces and then a lot of time removing the number before I fire. So this is kind of makes things a little faster and easier. Oh, that one, have to turn that around. There we go. Oh, now I'm going to trim this twisted cane with the mosaic nippers. Works really nicely. Now, if you don't have mosaic nippers, you can use your regular cutter on there and then your running pliers to break it. It works very easily. It's just they tend to roll away a little bit on you when you're trying to get that cutter wheel on there. So the nippers are a little easier, but if you don't have them, you can still work with the twisted cane, no problem. So many of my designs are really strictly follow a pattern. So this type of free-form design and whimsical pattern and kind of design as you go technique is just so fun to sometimes throw this type of thing in your your workflow, and just time flies, you enjoy yourself, you're being productive. It's also a great way to introduce, young people or people who don't work with glass how to do it, because this type of construction is super fast, easy, fun, and they end up with a really fabulous piece of art. You can see how nicely this is coming together as the pieces are individually nipped. You see how we're beginning to get the shape of the fish. Now I'm going to take some stringers, some red stringers, and bend them in a candle to give them a little bit of a cool thing about stringers is they give you a really nice linear quality. But when you bend them, you can add visual pattern to your pieces that you otherwise wouldn't have. And it's a really nice, strong, tiny, skinny line. So it's a terrific way to add detail to pretty much anything. Place the stringer directly into the flame of the candle and apply a little bit of pressure. When it becomes soft, it'll bend. Now, if you apply too much pressure, or before it gets warm enough to bend, it'll just break in your hands. So take your time and be patient with it. And then you'll have a lot of fun making these little wiggly pieces. The eyeball was made in advance. I take 1/4-inch pieces of white glass and put a small 1/8-inch piece of dichroic on top and fire them to a full fuse temperature to create the little eyes. Now, in a previous video, I showed how to make eyeballs. So I'll make sure that we include that link in the description so you can go find that if you're interested in making eyeballs for some of your projects. Some things you need to know about the bent stringer. It's a lot hotter than you think, a lot longer than you think, so let it cool before you handle it. Now I'm testing the pieces to see where they fit best and where they add the most to the design. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue everything together. I'm going to add some dichroic scrap pieces here and there for a little bit of flash. We just love that. A little sparkle and a little flash. And these are just random scrap pieces I had in a bin. I'm kind of deciding, looking to see which ones have a nice color, which ones look nice and bright and shiny, which ones I think will add nice dimension to this piece. Now I found that dichroic on clear tends to show really nicely on darker colors. So I'm going to try to put those pieces on the dark purple, the dark blue, maybe on the opal blue near the head, because those dichroic pieces on clear glass will just pop on those pieces. If you put them on a light piece, they add a little shimmer, but it's not quite as exciting or obvious. And of course, if I'm using dichroic, I want it to be very obvious. This is one of those projects where you really can't overdo it. If you think you want an extra piece, go for it, add it. It's just fun and whimsical, and there's no reason why you can't just, design to your heart's content. I'm using Elmer's white glue to affix the pieces together so that they don't roll apart and fall off that clear base when I transport it to the kiln. So what I do is I put a little bit of glue on a scrap piece of glass, and then I apply it to the back of the pieces with a toothpick. Now here I've decided to add some of that bent stringer to the tail. Oh, I think that's really fun and pretty. Adding a nice direction, a nice kind of vibrancy there. Now add a little more dichroic pieces here and there. Ooh, just loving the way this is coming out. So fun. And the wonderful thing about this, you can make this fish 5 or 6 different times, and every one will have its own individual personality, because you're going to do something a little different each time, because there's no right or wrong here, no rhyme or reason. You just kind of work with the same materials, put it together, and then get to enjoy each one individually. So this would be fun to put out on your porch, maybe as a wall hanging, maybe hanging in a window, maybe make it into a little bowl. You could also do that with it. So a lot of options and opportunity to find ways to use this. It would just be a great accent in a room where you have like a tropical theme, or a room maybe you don't have a tropical theme, but it could use a little tropical theme. I mean, why not, right? I feel like we have enough things we have to do and enough chores in our life that when it comes to building our art, we should just have fun and just enjoy it and not have any restraints. Just get out there, have a good time, make something in your studio, enjoy yourself. And boy, time flies, stress is gone, and you're just in that happy creative zone where I absolutely love to be. As you can see here, I'm not holding back from putting all these extra pieces on there. Heck no. Let's go ahead and decorate this dude up. Yeah. He's going to put rainbow fish to shame. Now we're going to fire him to a full fuse temperature, and here he is coming out of the kiln. Look how beautiful. Oh my.
It's sparkly, right? Sparkly. Now we're going to go ahead and slump them in a bowl. I feel like slumping this piece added a lot of form and interest to the finished piece of art. I think that contour really was a plus and well worth the effort. Because when it's on display, light can get underneath and illuminate the fish. If you'd like more instruction on this piece and a bunch of others, check out my Fun and Fanciful Fusing. It has 7 whimsical, colorful, fun designs that you will love making. The super fun cane that I used to make this project is handmade by Twisted Cane, and here's their information if you'd like to get some for yourself. And here's a look at some of the amazing projects that you can make with my Fun and Fanciful Fusing video.
Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed seeing how to make these fish. I hope you try using some of these materials yourself. And you see there's a lot of opportunity to use small scrap pieces of glass and end up with something really fun and exciting. So please like, follow, and subscribe my YouTube channel. We love it when you do that. We love when you share and when you give us your comments. We enjoy that. It encourages us, inspires us to keep making more videos for you. Please consider becoming a premium video member. We would love to have you. We have new courses coming out all the time. Full-length courses have step-by-step video instruction, full-size printable pattern ebook with firing guides, material list, color images, everything you need to be successful. Plus, you have access to a whole library of courses right off the bat. So, become a premium video member. We'd love to have you. And until next time, happy fusing!